Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this month's Fearless Fridays career transition interview. I'm here with Jenny Brown, and Jenny, why don't we dive straight in? And if you could tell us, what were you doing before, and what are you doing now?
Hi. Well, I left uni with a physics degree and went into banking for a few years, and then to a property company where I was working on the financial side for a few more years. So basically 10 years working for other people. And then when my first child was imminent, I set up my own business, importing leather goods from South America and selling them in the UK and Europe initially. Well, maybe not initially, it didn't work that quickly, but at least that was the plan.
Yeah, wow, amazing. So quite an eclectic background already. So I guess before getting to the business, talk us through sort of the physics, banking, property route that you took. What was the plan there?
Well, I think sort of physics, because school I was okay at it, didn't realize quite how difficult it would be at uni anyway. And then banking I kind of fell into because I sort of work more with numbers. I can't write an essay, for example, and did that, but actually probably then didn't feel very happy doing it for various reasons, such as FaceTime, which is as it was called in the early 2000s. People working sort of 2 a.m. to sort of show their face as to how they were working. I had sort of little bit arrogant and forthright in my early 20s, and sort of the pay was amazing, but my arrogance meant that I sort of thought, oh, it doesn't matter. So I then went to I did a property conversion course. I did an MA in real estate and applied some of the banking, actually, so portfolio theory to real estate for my thesis, and then did 5 years at a property company, which was really good. It was a really great lifestyle. I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that, but I think probably I'm not a very good employee. Not massively motivated to work for someone else. And when I started my own thing, this sort of overwhelming motivation came along, and I worked really hard for quite a long time and juggled that around children, very small children. And yeah, so I've been doing my own business, which is it's a product business by sort of importing and selling and brand building business of sort of really high quality items. I've been doing that for nearly 12 years now.
Oh, amazing. So I imagine there'll be some twists and turns in the business there too. So you mentioned, I guess, having your first child, and you mentioned not really wanting to work for someone else. What were the other reasons, and what was the trigger point that really led you to go, no, okay, I'm going to start up on my own?
Well, I suppose it was quite a big one in the sense that I actually, work had given me a sabbatical, and then I spent quite a lot of time in South America, and I sort of loved the lifestyle and I loved the products that were available there. And I thought, and friends who came over said, we're in agreement that these things would do really well in Europe. And I just I was a bit whimsical. I didn't really think it through. I had absolutely no sense that the myriad of things I would need to get involved with, but it was kind of quite thrilling and very exciting that I might build this sort of amazing company that was going to be massive and conquer the world. Reality is slightly different, certainly in the conquering the world sense, but I have really enjoyed doing it, and I think I've had sort of quite a at times, it certainly hasn't always been the case, but generally feel a lot more satisfaction through having my own business and being able to sort of be able to make choices and fall on my own sword rather than be bollocked by someone else when I mess up, or not having someone else to answer to. If work doesn't get done, that's because I've chosen not to do it for whatever reasons, and that might just be because of children or but it's very, very different. And generally speaking, it's obviously the big one is not receiving a guaranteed salary and so on, the security. But other than that, I can't say that there's sort of massive. It's all pretty much been upside.
Oh, amazing. Okay, because I mean, I work with clients, and I generally recommend, and we generally focus on more service-based businesses, in that if you really want to escape the 9 to 5 quickly, it's sort of an easier transition, I think, to package up your existing skills, to become a consultant, to provide a service. You can literally put up a website and you provide that. I always think of product businesses as incredibly exciting, and I can so see the appeal of having your own and getting involved in the design and having a physical product and so on. But I also imagine lots of complexity. So what have been, apart from letting go of the stable salary, what have been some of the challenges that you've come across, I guess especially in the early setup, but also over the decade or so that you've been doing it?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think it probably is a bit more exciting because it's sort of tangible product, and you've got a sense, oh, this will work, and then sometimes they don't at all. But I suppose the complexities is just really among. There's nothing individually complicated about it at all, but it's probably so many different components that you just have to be quite organized and efficient and quick, especially when there's two children who need you and so on. So complexities may be around needing to know a bit about, well, employment law, for example, or importing regulations, outgoing logistics and so on. But actually there is so much information, you definitely shouldn't be put off by it, because you find it the minute you actually need to know something, you find it within the hour how to do it. And if it's really complicated, okay, then you need to buy advice for it. But I think people, for example, import export, people think it's really daunting. I mean, it just isn't. You just ship boxes, or you get a shipper to do it for you, and we've got a really good relationship with someone. But I think, for example, people think, well, I buy something in South America and then I sell it through retailers in the UK. Surely that's really difficult. Well, it's not. You just do some digging and find the information, really. So.
And I think that's the case for everything, right? Again, even the type of business that I'm running, I had no idea how to launch a website, a podcast, the tax stuff, right? So as you say, the information's out. You just have to actively ask the question and find out and get the support you need.
Exactly. And there is so much for small businesses, because it's, the government's very behind it, and there's UK trade advisors for. And actually, there's a myriad of things, so that's kind of much easier. And in some respects, it's quite good that lots of people don't know that it's more accessible, so the market isn't flooded. But and it's interesting because it's always changing and evolving. And employment law is a difficult one, but again, there are resources to get help very cheaply. So nothing has been too difficult. Well, having said that, Brexit was really difficult, rather the referendum, because we buy everything in dollars. And I think this was probably the hardest point in my business history, is suddenly the cost of all our goods went up 30%, and we lost, I think in the year that basically the exchange rate tanked, we lost something like 40% of our profit just on exchange rate. And that really was such a downer. And it did put me into a downer, which I think has taken me quite a long time to get out of, in terms of just the business really sort of being a bit sort of strangled because the exchange rate still hasn't come back. But it has grown enough that I've now got someone running the business, so I don't do the day-to-day. So I can, so sort of jumping on from a really tough period to now a really good period. I'm probably doing 2 hours on average a day, and the rest I'm doing stuff to help some other interests, or children, or home. We've moved house and so on. So I'm, it's a really amazing place to be now after 10 years, to be very independent. So yeah, it's definitely been worth it, but there've been some tough times.
Yeah. Well, okay, and did you have any mentors? You said you found sort of help with the employment law, and was it just a question of Googling and sort of looking for the information, or how did you get the support you've needed to answer all these questions?
Well, there's a couple of things. So probably in the sort of first 5 years, there was a scheme that the government had put on where you were sort of given mentors. I can't remember the name of it. It's now stopped, and I had a couple of time with those people, and that just sort of gave me a bit of confidence with certain things, just to share it, because as a bit of a cliche, but people say it's very lonely running your own business. You've got to shoulder the difficulties, and maybe the employee difficulties or supplier, ultimately it falls on you. So that was really good. But I think what really helped is in 2014 I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses, and that was a sort of 6-month course, just to sort of help you really look at your business differently, and sort of different strands of the business. So that was really good. And really since then I've maybe just felt a bit more confident and been able to sort of make decisions. But I always share decision making with my team, and I'll always ask what they think first. So not because I then take the credit for it, but you're getting minds of others to then make the sort of final call on something. So maybe because the team's bigger, it's sort of easier.
And how big is the team?
So we're only 7, but it's still enough. That's still 7 heads with new product ideas. We ask everybody, because the chap in the warehouse might have a really cool idea that is a bit left field, and we haven't thought, or there's the ladies that work sort of who are very much more designy, and they'll have sort of lots and lots of good ideas. So yeah, it's really fun, that, and we we'll bounce ideas around for lots of different things.
Amazing. And what would you say now is then, as you said, you've come out of quite a difficult period, unfortunately completely out of your control with exchange rates and Brexit and so on, but what would you say is the best part now? How are you enjoying the fruits of your labour after all these years?
Well, I think what I'm really enjoying is, because I'm not sort of, it's again another sort of business mantra or cliche, is sort of don't work in the business, work on the business. So I do feel that's kind of happening, but I've got a really great guy who's running it day to day. And it means that I'll do my 2 hours, let's say, of more administrative things, but then I might just be thinking, I've got time to sort of think. I might be doing the garden, and what if we did and come up with a sort of new thing, and then we all decide whether we want to implement it or not. And so that I really enjoy, actually, is being able to be a bit more creative and possibly not having to do so much of the actual implementing.
And I mean, managing alongside kids, I guess if you're doing a couple of hours here and there, that's much easier, I suppose, than having, let's say, a late night in the banking office and so on, right? So
well, I think I probably put in more hours in the first few years, if I'm really honest, because I'd put the children to bed and then I'd start work, and I'd often be working into the small hours to get the bigger bits of work done. But that was contained, and there, I'm well on the other side now, and I also, I needed, because I'm a single mum and always have been. I think, I needed someone at home, so maybe I wasn't doing so much of sort of domestic life when now I am, and it's sort of a bit more. It's so much less frantic, I suppose, now. So yeah.
And so I guess 12 years might seem quite overwhelming for someone who's just at the beginning of the journey. Do you mind sharing how long did it take you to sort of get it to a profitable level, or where it was bringing in income? Did you have to plough through your savings in the early days? How are you managing the finances when you let go of the salary?
Sure. Well, I mean, you actually mentioned a really good point earlier on, actually. Sort of difference with a product-based business is you do need some capital at the beginning. So I'd sold a flat and used money from that to buy stock. I think it was about £15,000, and then I needed to put in a bit more, and I think it went up to about, we're talking sort of 2009, 2010, it went up to about 30,000, I think I put in, by the time I'd paid to do a show and this, that, and the other. And it took till 2012 to become profitable, from which I could draw a salary. So, and so we lived very modestly, and just sort of, so I suppose if you look at the opportunity cost, significantly more than 30,000 that I needed to invest at the beginning in actual sort of, working capital or whatever. So yeah, that was quite a lot. I think you can still sell products, but in a different way. There's many other ways of doing it. I brought stuff in, that was Pampeano stuff. So one can be a lot more creative, and also in terms of, for example, you could do drop shipping. You only buy the goods if you sold it. So you don't necessarily need to build up sort of a few £100,000 worth of stock. And when we started selling to retailers, then we started to need another sort of huge, massive load of stock, which but in terms of sort of being able to not go for 2.5 years really without pay, which is kind of staggering, really. I mean, of course, you could, if you've got a really great idea, go and get investment. And I just didn't feel that I suppose because I knew through modest living we could probably manage. I didn't want to give up my business at that point. I didn't want to lose 25% or more. So I guess I was sort of very lucky in that sense. And I didn't have a mortgage. So I think my circumstances were really lucky at the beginning to be able to do that. In some ways, maybe it's not, a business takes, I think, do they say 2 years to sort of be, I mean, this far better, Anna. Is it two years to sort of say, well, this might work, and sort of on average 5 years to be profitable or something like that? So I sort of had that in mind. But I thought, well, I've clearly got to do that much sooner. And as I say, yes, it was about 2.5 years. So
yeah, and that's amazing for such a business, as you said, with the investment and you keeping control of the business and so on. So I think it's obviously it can be faster when you're doing something a bit sort of lower investment, lower capital required at the beginning. But I guess would you do anything differently? What advice, what words of wisdom might you give to someone who's just at the beginning of that, who is teetering on the edge of launching their own product business, whether import, export, or drop shipping, or whatever it might be? What words of wisdom would you share with them?
I think maybe one thing would be actually to take money if it's available, because clearly you can scale much faster. It took me a really long time through organic growth to get to, well, we're only 1 million turnover, but it took a really long time. And so if it's available, I'd take that and maybe do it with someone who's got complementing skill sets. It's tough on your own. I think that would have made a big difference if, say, I had joined forces with someone who was a real marketeer, for example. Yeah. As someone who complements, I think is a really good one.
And what's next for you? Do you think, I mean, as you said, you've sort of taken a little bit of a step back. Is the plan to take more of a step back and to work on another project, or what are you thinking?
I find the finance side quite interesting. So I'm doing some consultancy work, actually, sort of financial kind of pseudo FD, because I'm not qualified, work for other business, and I really enjoy that because I sort of got a bit of a commercial angle, as well as sort of being very comfortable with forecasting and so on. So I'm doing that, and I was also thinking about importing rugs, actually.
Okay.
Because I really enjoy the sort of buying, the wheeler dealering, going to these amazing countries, and I don't know, I think killing rugs might be my next thing.
Exciting. So both expanding to other products, but also I love that the diversified model, I think, is both having your own product business and also advising other businesses. I think is a great way to diversify your income stream and to use your experience, and if you enjoy it as well, that's the bonus.
It's fascinating looking at other businesses. I do actually look at, I really do. I often look at sort of company reports and so on because I'm interested in it, and to sort of learn from it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And but it's really interesting seeing small businesses too. Is sort of, oh, did you know about this? Did you know about that? This bit of software will save you hours and therefore costs. So so much money it'll save you. And I really love that sort of thing with other people.
And you must have so many tidbits now from all the years, from your experiences as well, to be able to give people lap up all that expertise when they're starting out.
Well, you'd hope so, but people like me are quite stubborn. So, whether they want to hear it, or want to use what they hear, that's obviously their prerogative. But it's really interesting.
Okay, amazing. And where can we find your beautiful products if someone wants to look at maybe buy one of your belts or have a look at your range?
Well, we've got about 300 stockists, so lots of shops, but we don't have our own standalone. We sell online. Okay. Our website is pampeano.co.uk.
Perfect. So I'll link to that as well. Well, thanks so much, Jenny. Really exciting to hear the sort of twists and turns, I guess, early on in your career, as well as how you've, over quite a long period of time, but really stuck with it. And clearly your persistence and stubbornness, as you said, and your belief in everything has really paid off. So hopefully you get to now enjoy a bit more sort of calm time, and politics and so on will settle, and exchange rates will bounce back, hopefully, and give you more success in the coming years.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Anna.
Thank you, Jenny.